Well, hi, I'm David Elliott, the Minister for Emergency Services in New South Wales, and it's a great honour to be part of the celebration of history for fire and rescue in New South Wales, and delighted that this year's theme is from the ground up, because of course that's how we build buildings, and unfortunately that's how the fire and rescue members across this state often attack the fires. It was a great honour to be the patron of the museum, because as a student of history, as somebody who did a Bachelor of Arts and majored in history, it is a real passion of mine. And of course, working as an Australian Army officer over a number of years gave me exposure to a lot of the other combat agencies across the state and indeed the nation. So it wasn't unusual for me as an Army officer to actually have a little bit of exposure to fire and rescue on various occasions. I think anybody that puts on a uniform understands the importance of esprit de corps and understands the importance of mateship and looking out for each other, and the unique nature of work that the military and fire and rescue and policing, for that matter, bring about. And the museum's a great way to celebrate that, because these are traditions that go back a very, very long time, and obviously in New South Wales back into about 1840, and before then, when you considered the military were the lead responder to any fires in the early colony, and of course the fire and rescue have some great traditions that are built on the back of many military traditions, particularly from the Navy, and it's certainly something worth celebrating and something worth remembering. And of course, as the favourite saying of all historians, if we don't remember the past, we're condemned to relive it in the future. The responsibility of the military in the first instance, and like a lot of public services back in the early colonial times, trusted convicts were brought about to be part of that fire and response capability, and I think it's something that we need to reflect on, because often we get caught up with the modern fire and rescue as something that has all of this fantastic kit and all of these capabilities and this technology and this training, but the history of fire goes back in this country thousands of years, but the history of modern civilian firefighting is 200 years old, and there's some fantastic learnings out of that. Well, I think what would fascinate me is the way in which we trained those early firefighters, and you get to learn a lot about an organisation, particularly a response agency like fire and rescue, when you learn about how they're trained and how those trainings evolved. Because there would certainly be first aid practices and in fact challenges of getting water to a fire that we would think quite comical in the 21st century. Of course, one of the great celebrated fires was the fire at the military barracks on the 15th of January in 1822, where the learnings that came out of that certainly established practices from that point on. We hadn't really had much of any coordinated fire response before then. Certainly soldiers had been taught what to do and in the event of an emergency, but the fire that started in that chimney at that time was Australia's version of the Great Fire of London in 1666. Like a lot of learnings that come out of natural disasters and emergencies, set the train for formal training and formal learning for firefighters. It was 21 years ago that I got deployed as an Australian Army officer to the peacekeeping operations in Bougainville. It was a very, very hot place, but very tropical environment. So the thought of a bushfire and in the wet jungles of New Guinea was the last thing on our mind. But of course, I arrived in January in the heat and the humidity. And not only did we have to learn how to put out fires, like every other soldier and officer on the deployment, but we had to do it with the full fire protection gear on. I don't think that I've sweat so much, I don't think I've lost so much bodily fluids, I don't think that I've been so hot than learning how to put out a fire by the Australian Army engineers in the tropical jungles in the middle of summer. Australians love their history. We've got a lot to celebrate, whether it be the story of Gallipoli, the legends of bushrangers, or the trials and tribulations of our colonial past. And indeed, the Indigenous Australians have got the wonderful tradition of the Dreamtime, where they talk about their own history. I'm delighted to be a patron of a museum that celebrates history, particularly the history of people that have done so much for this nation through fire and rescue, whether they be community fire units, retained firefighters, or indeed our salaried officers as well. So congratulations to all involved in the museum. I'm very much looking forward to my next trip there, and of course you have been able to tell these wonderful stories that will mean that we remember the service and sacrifice of all those that have worn the uniform.